They fear you not because of what you've done, but because of what you might do. My dear chosen ones, remember this truth. If you were ordinary, if you were background noise, no one would bother to watch. No files would be opened with your name on them. No silent observers would be tracking your steps. Shadows don't attract surveillance. Threats do. And you, my chosen ones, are seen as a living threat to the order they cling to. That alone should tell you how powerful you are. The greatest cages are never built of steel. They are made of whispers, of unseen eyes, of constant monitoring meant to shrink you into doubting yourself. But let me flip the script. Let me show you how their watchfulness is the loudest confirmation of your strength. Every time you feel the weight of invisible eyes, that is proof. Proof that you are not irrelevant. Proof that you carry weight. Proof that your existence bends reality in ways they cannot control. Do you wonder, why me? Why am I the one they choose to monitor? Here is your answer. Because you are marked by difference. You disrupt their equations simply by existing. They don't watch you for entertainment. They watch you because your silences hold more power than their noise. They study your pauses, your reactions, your laughter, the way you lift a glass of water, the way you shift when pressure builds. Every movement is treated like encrypted code they need to crack. My chosen ones, this is not paranoia, it's protocol. Someone, somewhere, has been given specific instructions. Keep your eyes locked on them. This is not the nosy neighbor leaning on the fence. This is not idle curiosity. This is deliberate, calculated observation, scientific, clinical. You are the experiment and the enigma at the same time, the lab rat and the wild card, the pattern they can't quite predict but must never stop trying to decode. And while that sounds unsettling, let's speak plainly. If they've made you the star of their secret documentary, then remember, you control the script more than you realize. Chosen ones, before we step further into these truths, I need you to take action that fuels this mission. If what you've heard so far has struck something inside you, if it made you pause, rethink, or feel that fire within, then show your support. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. Every click, every subscription, every show of support is what allows us to keep bringing you content that challenges, inspires, and energizes. This is how we keep building together, how we make sure these life-changing messages continue to reach those who need them most. Think about this. Resources are limited. Do they waste them on shadows? Number. They point them at fire. They aim them at people who bend the rules of reality by simply existing. My chosen ones, you bend reality. Your presence is weighty enough to make them nervous, bold enough to spark curiosity, disruptive enough to demand their constant focus. You, not them, are the gravitational pull. You, not them, tilt the field. So ask yourself, is this curse or confirmation? If someone spends this much energy watching you, doesn't that mean they see something in you you've barely begun to see in yourself? They're not documenting an average life. They're charting possibility. They're watching not for what you did yesterday, but for what you might do tomorrow. And tomorrow, chosen ones, belongs to you. They don't observe shadows. They observe signals. You are the signal. Your choices echo. Your presence shifts rooms. Your very refusal to disappear becomes a disruption. And that disruption terrifies them. They watch you because they cannot ignore you. They monitor you because they cannot predict you. And in their desperate attempt to control your story, they reveal the truth. They are afraid of it. Yes, they will test you. Yes, they will study you like data points on a chart. But never forget, the only reason they do this is because you carry leverage, because you bend systems, because your existence forces them to pay attention. Imagine their frustration, chosen ones, when no matter how much they measure, they still can't script your next move. Imagine how that burns them. That is your power. You are not invisible. You are not powerless. You are not a background extra in someone else's story. You are the disruption that makes them write reports late into the night. You are the anomaly they cannot ignore. And here's the irony. They think they are studying you, when in reality their obsession is the evidence of your influence. Every page in their file is a trophy of your significance. Every hidden camera is proof of your gravity. So, my chosen ones, lean in. Do not shrink under their gaze. Understand what it means to be observed at this level. It is not a curse. It is not a punishment. It is a signal of your weight in this world. They do not build entire playbooks for those who don't matter. They only do this for those who carry the kind of power that unsettles structures. And that, my dear chosen ones, is who you are. The eye on you is not proof of your weakness. It is proof of your worth. Remember this as we dive deeper. By the time you finish hearing me out, you will see surveillance for what it really is. A badge of your significance, a reminder of your leverage, and a weapon you can learn to turn back on them. Awareness is the first strike. And you, chosen ones, are already awake. And chosen ones, let me pause for just a moment to thank you. Yes, you. Whether this is your very first step into this journey, or you've been walking with us from the beginning, your presence here is the reason we can keep shining light on the truths they'd rather keep hidden. If you feel the weight of those unseen eyes, if you know deep down that someone has specific instructions to keep watching you, then show your strength right now. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 11 in the comments if you're ready to turn their surveillance into proof of your power. And if you truly want to fuel this mission, consider showing support through Super Thanks. It helps us keep pushing harder, bringing you messages that wake the world up. Now let's dive in step by step. And believe me, if you are a true chosen one, you will recognize every single sign, because these aren't random. These are the exact signals that only chosen ones experience, never the ordinary. Let's get started. Number 1. The blueprint of your morality is being drawn in secret. They are drawing a secret blueprint of your character. They don't care about your words, chosen ones. They care about the blueprint your choices are etching into their files, and every move you make is another nail in the coffin of their control. My dear chosen ones, let me speak to you plainly. They are not watching you to be entertained. They are watching you to map you. Every glance you take, every hesitation, every act of courage or moment of weakness is sketched into a secret blueprint of your character. Imagine it like this. Every kindness you show in silence becomes a ridge on their chart. Every time you cut a corner or shrink back from principle, they mark it as a valley. To them, you are not a person. They are reducing you to topography, a living map of patterns, impulses, and thresholds. You may wonder, why are they so obsessed with these small things? Why not the big headline moments of my life? The answer, chosen ones, is chilling, because small patterns are more predictive than grand gestures. 1,000 small choices show the truth of who you are, far more than one dramatic event ever could. They know that if your instinct under pressure is compassion, you are reliable. If your instinct is self-preservation at another's expense, you are exploitable. Think of it like this. You see yourself living day to day, but they see you like a chessboard, every move logged, every reaction measured. When you forgive quickly, they note that you're someone who prioritizes harmony. When you hold grudges, they write you down as someone who can be cornered with resentment. When you apologize, when you hesitate, when you defend someone, or when you look the other way, all of it is evidence to them. What you call personality, they call data. Chosen ones, here is the hard truth. They are less interested in your soul and more interested in your forecast. They are not judging you as good or bad, moral or immoral. They are calculating, Will you stand when pressure mounts, or will you fold? Will you amplify a cause and spark momentum, or will you crumble and spread chaos? That's what they're after, predictability. And let me hit the enemy with this. For all their calculations, their fear is showing. Because if you were irrelevant, they would not waste resources sketching you stroke by stroke. If you were background noise, no blueprint would be needed. But you are not noise, chosen ones. You are signal. Your loyalty, your stubbornness, your integrity, your flaws, all of it bends reality. And because you bend it, they must know exactly how far you'll bend it next. That is not weakness, that is proof of your influence. But let's cut deeper. This mapping is not for curiosity, it is for leverage. They study you so they know when to apply pressure, when to lure you, when to steer you subtly, and when to push hard. If they see a crack in your armor, they catalog it. If they see resilience, they measure how much energy it will take to wear you down. To them, you are not a name. You are coordinates on a secret chart that decides if you are a threat, an asset, or background noise. You may ask, doesn't that mean they've already decided my fate? No, chosen ones. It means the opposite. It means every choice you make shifts the blueprint. Every act of quiet strength redraws the map. Every time you stand on principle, every time you refuse to fold under pressure, you make their predictions less reliable. And the one thing they cannot stand is unpredictability. The greatest rebellion against a system that wants to chart you is to refuse to be charted. Think of it like a game of cards. They're trying to count your deck, but if you play in ways they don't expect, if you hold to kindness when they predict cruelty, if you rise when they expect collapse, you become untouchable. Their calculations fail, and their fear grows. Because unpredictability means they cannot script your downfall. Chosen ones understand the weight of this. Your private choices are not private anymore. To them, they are forecasts. Every small act is an entry in their ledger, a signal for whether to lift you, neutralize you, or tolerate you. And yet, hidden inside that reality is your power. Because when you know they're watching for weakness, you can weaponize your strength. You can flip the script. So let me say it directly, your life is not a collection of random acts. To them, it's a map. But to you, it is a chance to draw the map on your terms. You don't need perfection. What you need is consistency. The consistency of standing tall when bending would be easier. The consistency of compassion when cruelty is expected. The consistency of refusing to let fear dictate your moves. Every line on their secret chart can either mark your vulnerability or testify to your resilience. And every time you choose resilience, you hit them harder than any speech ever could. They want predictability, but unpredictability is your hidden weapon. They want leverage, but integrity dulls their grip. Remember this, my dear chosen ones. They are not just watching you to judge. They are watching you to plan. And the harder you are to plan for, the more powerful you become. The more consistent your strength, the more useless their blueprint becomes. In the end, their greatest weakness is not your flaws. It is your refusal to be defined by them. So hold this truth close. Their charts may try to confine you, but your choices can redraw the entire map. Number 2, every secret you hold is converted into currency. Your secrets have been converted into currency. They don't just watch you, chosen ones. They invest in you like stock, trading your secrets as if they were gold, waiting for the perfect moment to cash in. My dear chosen ones, understand this clearly. Surveillance is not curiosity. It is not an archive for nostalgia. It is not some random habit of those in power who are bored. Number. Surveillance is economy. Every glance, every overheard word, every slip of emotion becomes a coin dropped into their vault. And unlike coins, your secrets never rust. They wait, they stack, they gather interest until one day they're pulled out, polished, and used as leverage against you. Think about it. Your heartbreak, your frustrations, the messages you typed when you thought no one was paying attention, all of it is stored. And to them, it isn't human experience. It's capital, that painful confession you once whispered in trust. To them, that's a diamond, that ordinary photo on a quiet day. To them, it's a weapon waiting for the right frame. Your life is being treated like a market where your mistakes, your vulnerabilities, even your silences are assets traded behind closed doors. You may ask, but if I've done nothing wrong, why should I fear? Chosen ones, here's the truth. In this game, innocence doesn't protect you. Fairness doesn't even enter the equation. What matters is not truth, it's utility. They don't need to invent lies about you when they have the raw material of your own life. They can trim the context, stitch together fragments, and release a version of you that serves their strategy. It's not about what really happened. It's about what's most useful at the time. Picture this: a single detail from years ago, a message you forgot, a slip of temper in private. It sits quietly in their archive until the day it becomes the trump card. They hoard data the way governments stockpile weapons or corporations hoard gold. Most of it looks pointless until suddenly it's not. That forgotten detail becomes the lever that tilts an entire negotiation, the silent blackmail that keeps someone compliant, or the proof released at the perfect moment to fracture your credibility. This is the weight you feel but can't name, the heaviness that comes not from what's happening now, but from knowing tomorrow's attacks may already be sitting in their hands. To them, your emotions are not sacred. Your anger is a commodity. Your fears are tokens. Your silence is a card to be played. And they study not only what you reveal, but when to reveal it. Timing is their sharpest weapon. Chosen ones, here's the cold truth. Ownership of your secrets means ownership of your narrative. Whoever holds your story holds the exchange rate of your life. If they want you to comply, they'll hint at what they know. If they want you to stay quiet, they'll remind you of what they've seen. And if they want to elevate you, they'll reframe those same secrets into a polished image that benefits them. In this economy, your truth is not your own, it is collateral. But let me remind you of this. The very fact they harvest your life as currency is proof of your value. They don't collect worthless things. They don't archive shadows. They archive signals, and you, chosen ones, are the strongest signals in the room. Your secrets are being traded because your voice carries weight, because your influence matters, because your potential to disrupt cannot be ignored. And here is the opportunity they can't predict. You can flip their economy. Every time you own your truth, every time you speak what they thought they could weaponize, you devalue their stock. When you refuse to be shamed by your past, their archive turns to ash. When you turn vulnerability into strength, they lose leverage. The only economy that collapses instantly is the one built on secrets you no longer hide. So understand, chosen ones, that surveillance is their market, but awareness is your weapon. They may trade your silence like gold, but the moment you claim your story, their currency crashes. That is how you hit them hardest, not by hiding, but by mastering the exchange on your own terms. Number 3. Subtle experiments are testing where you break. They probe your edges to see where you bend and where you break. Enemies don't always strike with a hammer, chosen ones. The smartest ones press with a fingertip again and again until they know exactly where you'll bruise. My dear chosen ones, listen carefully. Chaos doesn't come to you by accident. It doesn't arrive in random storms. It comes in measured doses, calculated pushes, and carefully designed trials meant to reveal you. They test your edges, not to destroy you outright, but to find out how you can be destroyed if they ever decide the time is right. This is why the pressure often feels so strangely timed. A rumor dropped in just the right moment. A favor demanded when you're already stretched thin. A private detail whispered out of place just to watch if you defend yourself, or if you shrink and apologize. None of it is random. Every nudge, every jab, every inconvenience is data collection. They're not watching to laugh at your pain. They're clocking your response time, your tone, your posture, whether you flare up publicly or retreat into silence. To them, your reactions are not emotions. They are coordinates. Ask yourself, have you ever noticed how the smallest test feels bigger than it should? That's because it was never about the rumor, never about the favor, never about the leak. It was about you. Would you protect your inner circle even when it costs you? Would you admit fault just to escape tension? Would you stand your ground knowing it will bring more heat? These little crossroads tell them everything. The cruelest part is that these experiments aren't meant to break you in one blow. They don't need to. They only need to sketch the outline. Each tiny test adds to a profile until the pattern becomes clear. Do you fold when shamed? Do you cave for incentives? Do you bend for loyalty? Or does logic pull you more than emotion? Every answer tightens their sketch of your edges until they know exactly which lever moves you and which lever leaves you frozen. Chosen ones, remember this. Predictability is their weapon, but unpredictability is your shield. Think of it like calibration. They are tuning an instrument, you, to know which note you'll play under which pressure. And there's nothing casual about it. Resources are finite, so they don't waste energy where they don't need to. If you snap under small pressure, they mark you as unreliable, too fragile for serious roles. If you stay steady through small storms, they start grooming you, either for influence or for deeper tests. If you collapse privately but shine under the camera, they note you as useful for appearances but risky behind closed doors. This isn't just about your breaking points, chosen ones. It's about your repair mechanisms. They measure how long it takes you to bounce back. They watch who helps you rebuild. They note whether you come back stronger or stay cracked. Even your recovery time is part of the experiment, because knowing how you rebuild tells them how long you can be sidelined before you rise again. But here's the twist they don't want you to realize. If they're testing you this much, it's because you are dangerous to them. If you were ordinary, they wouldn't need the calibration. No one tests shadows. They test forces. And you, chosen ones, are a force. So let me ask you, what happens when they think they've figured you out, but you refuse to play by their pattern? You shake the ground beneath them. Their prediction fails. Their script crumbles. And suddenly, they're the ones exposed. Never forget, my chosen ones. The goal of these tests is not drama, it's control. If they can predict you, they can preempt you. If they can chart you, they can steer you. But when you become unpredictable, not wild, but intentionally disciplined, you turn their weapon back on them. You make their charts worthless. You make their investments wasteful. The most dangerous outcome for you is not exposure. Exposure can be survived. The true danger is being fully understood by people who will weaponize that understanding. That's why your defense isn't to be flawless. It's to be conscious. Conscious of how you react, how you rebuild, and how you refuse to be cornered by patterns. Chosen ones, let them press, let them push, but let every test prove this truth. You are not someone who can be mapped easily. You are not someone who can be reduced to levers and buttons. You are more than their data points. And every time you rise beyond their expectation, you hit them where it hurts most, right in their illusion of control. Number 4. Your contradictions are being stockpiled as ammunition. Your contradictions are being collected like ammunition for a future war. They don't need to invent lies about you, chosen ones. Your contradictions, taken out of context, become sharper weapons than any false story ever could. My chosen ones, listen carefully. They are not waiting for you to fall into some dramatic scandal or stage-shattering mistake. They are patient, methodical, and meticulous. What they want is far simpler and, in many ways, far more dangerous. They are compiling a quiet archive of every contradiction you've ever lived. Your words versus your actions, your declarations versus your private choices. They are not collecting these fragments out of curiosity. They are stockpiling them as weapons, weapons that can be used at the exact moment it benefits them most. And here is what stings the enemy. They reveal themselves through their obsession with your contradictions. Because if you were ordinary, your inconsistencies would fade into noise like everyone else's. Nobody wastes time cataloging the hypocrisy of shadows. They only do this for chosen ones, the ones whose influence carries enough weight that even small cracks in the image must be stored for later use. Think about it. You may believe those tiny moments don't matter, the day you claim patience and then snap in frustration, the post where you talk about community and later withdraw in silence when it's inconvenient. To you, those are just human slips. But to the ones watching, they are not slips. They are threads. And threads, when pulled, can unravel entire fabrics. They don't wait for lies. They weaponize truth in fragments. This is their strategy. No need to create a scandal when they can stitch together a story out of your own scattered pieces. It doesn't even need to be the whole truth. It just needs to feel true. People rarely investigate beyond the surface when faced with a story that feels coherent. And contradictions, chosen ones, are like sparks. They ignite suspicion faster than any speech can put out. Ask yourself this: why would someone hold on to these contradictions instead of discarding them? Because to them, your complexity is not humanity, it is liability. They see your inconsistencies as currency. One day they might leak them slowly, a drip feed of doubt that corrodes trust over time. Another day they may release them all at once, collapsing your reputation in a single blow. Either way, their patience is their weapon. They wait, they archive, and they strike when it benefits them most. But here's where the chosen ones turn the tables. Your very contradictions, the ones they hoard like gold, are also proof that you are alive, evolving, and unpredictable. Ordinary people, easily boxed, do not warrant this kind of record-keeping. Only those with real leverage, real presence, are studied at this depth. They fear your contradictions, not because they make you weak, but because they make you hard to control. They can't script someone who keeps growing, shifting, and breaking molds. My chosen ones do not mistake this for weakness. Yes, they will try to weaponize your mismatches. Yes, they will attempt to fracture your narrative. But understand this: the fact that they need to dig through your past, piece together fragments, and wait for the right moment to strike proves one thing: you are already bending the game. You are already powerful enough to be worth this kind of investment. When someone keeps a ledger of your contradictions, it is not your downfall they are recording. It is their fear of your rise. So, how do you counter this? By mastering the truth of your own contradictions before they do. Own them, acknowledge them, use them as proof that you are human, not a machine to be predicted or programmed. Because once you take ownership, their leverage crumbles. The weapon they forged turns blunt in your hands. Remember, chosen ones, their archive is not about morality. It is about control. They want to decide when forgiveness is offered, when trust is withdrawn, when support collapses. They want your inconsistencies to become their trigger. But the truth is this: your power is not in pretending to be flawless. Your power is in refusing to be defined by fragments. So walk with this knowledge. Yes, they are compiling your contradictions. Yes, they will try to use them as proof against you. But those same contradictions can become your shield when you recognize them as part of your evolution. They cannot control a chosen one who accepts complexity as strength. And that is the hardest blow you can land on the enemy. Number 5. Your alliances are forecasted. Like storms on a radar, they forecast your alliances like storms, not friendships. They don't fear the smile beside you. They fear the army that might stand behind you when the storm breaks. Chosen ones, let's strip away the illusion. They are not tracking who likes your posts or who claps for you in public. They're not interested in the noise of handshakes, parties, or polite mentions. What they care about is this: when the sky darkens, who shows up at your side? When pressure rises, when scandal spreads, when loss hits, who remains? That's what they are watching with the precision of a storm forecaster. Think of it this way. To you, a friendship may feel personal. To them, your alliances are weather systems. They measure not sentiment, but pressure. They log who drifts away quietly when whispers surround your name. They log who steps forward, risking their own reputation just to steady you. They don't care about who celebrates you when life is calm. They care about who shields you when the lightning strikes. What you call loyalty, they call data. And this is where their cold calculation strikes hardest. To them, an ally who tweets your defense but disappears when real consequences arrive is a weak signal. But the one who shows up at your court date, at your hospital bed, at your darkest hour without broadcasting it, becomes a point of power on your chart. My chosen ones, this is how they weigh your circle. They don't measure it by smiles, they measure it by sacrifice. You may ask, why does this matter to them so much? Because alliances under fire reveal whether you are durable or disposable. A chosen one with a network that stands when storms hit is dangerous in their eyes. Dangerous not because of violence or rebellion, but because such a person cannot be easily erased. When your allies hold their ground, you become harder to isolate, harder to silence, harder to bury. Now let's hit the enemy where it hurts. This is their fear, that you, chosen one, will build a circle so unshakable that even their storms cannot scatter it. They dread the day when your name, instead of being a liability, becomes a rallying cry. That is why they analyze your alliances like radar screens, looking for weaknesses, waiting for fractures, testing where collapse might come fastest. Notice how they study the speed of retreat. If your circle scatters like dominoes at the first hint of rumor, they mark you as volatile, a contagion no one wants to touch. But if your allies draw closer, if they cluster around you in defiance, then you terrify them. Because you've proven you can survive storms, and survival means momentum, and momentum, chosen ones, is power. They don't just look at how many stand with you. Numbers fool the surface. They study who those allies are. A small band of fierce, proven defenders, willing to risk real costs, is more threatening than a crowd of casual acquaintances. A dozen lukewarm associates mean nothing. But one or two who are tested, who have risked before and would risk again, that makes you untouchable. That makes their forecasts uncertain. So understand this, chosen ones. They're compiling profiles not just of you, but of everyone who loves, supports, and defends you. They cross-reference past behavior. Who gave their voice when it cost them? Who stayed silent when you needed them most? They build their models like climate charts, marking durability, volatility, and contagion risk. To them, your friendships are not sentiment. They are predictive instruments. And here's the brutal truth. Your rise or your fall in their ledger often depends less on your own deeds and more on the weather pattern of your alliances. Do they see you surrounded by stable, fierce defenders? Then you are treated as a long-term investment, someone who might be lifted, groomed, or deployed. Do they see you surrounded by people who flee at the first sign of trouble? Then you are marked as expendable, someone who will collapse without external effort. But here's your power, chosen ones. You are not powerless in this forecast. You can cultivate your alliances intentionally. You can choose the few who will stand, rather than the many who will fade. You can protect your circle, test their weight, and know exactly who will remain when the sky turns black. That foresight makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability makes you untouchable. A storm does not frighten the mountain. It only reveals which trees have roots and which ones were always hollow. So, my chosen ones, remember this. They may watch your circle like weather, but the storm will always reveal the truth. Stand with those who stand with you, protect your core, and never mistake shallow noise for deep loyalty. Because the stronger your alliances, the more terrified they become of the storm you will survive, and the sun you will rise into after. Number 6. Tiny habits. Are the algorithm's sharpest weapons? The algorithms feast on your smallest habits. It's not the storms that betray you, chosen ones. It's the raindrops, counted one by one until they forecast your entire future. My dear chosen ones, let's strike at the heart of this truth. You are not being measured by your grand speeches, your dramatic moments, or your loudest battles. No, what exposes you most is far smaller, almost invisible. It's the way you move on autopilot, the patterns so routine you barely notice them, but they notice everything. Algorithms and watchers thrive on these tiny repetitions. They don't need your confessions, they just need your habits. And that's why they have specific instructions to keep a close eye on you. Because unlike the ordinary, your patterns carry power. Every "I'll do it tomorrow," every "I've been busy," every skipped apology, these are coordinates on the hidden map they're drawing of you. They don't care about the intention behind your words. They care about the consistency behind your actions. Let me break this down with a hard truth. You might think an excuse is harmless. Everyone says, "I'll get to it soon," right? But the algorithm doesn't see it as harmless. It sees it as evidence. Repeated excuses aren't small. They are signals. They reveal avoidance, procrastination, or misplaced priorities. If you say the same excuse across different areas of life, that's not coincidence, chosen one, that's a forecast. And that forecast becomes a prediction about how you will respond when the stakes are higher. Ask yourself this: are they really watching my smallest slips? Even the times I don't say sorry? Yes, especially then. Because every skipped apology tells them whether you care about repairing damage or whether you prefer to move on and hope others adjust. It tells them whether accountability is in your blood or whether you lean on self-preservation. And here's the chilling part. They're not judging you as right or wrong. They are simply asking, will this trait make them durable or will it make them crack later? And chosen ones, there is something even subtler. You may defend many, but there will always be one person, one group, one cause you consistently stay silent about. That silence is louder than all your defenses combined. It shows bias, unspoken values, or hidden resentments. To the watchers, that silence is gold. Because what you consistently avoid defines you more powerfully than what you occasionally attempt. Patterns are louder than promises. That's the law of algorithms. You can declare loyalty, integrity, compassion, but if your daily patterns betray something else, your words collapse. The Watchers know this. That's why they don't obsess over your public declarations. They watch your defaults. The things you do when no one is looking, the excuses you repeat without thinking, the habits you don't question. Now you may be asking, but isn't this unfair? Don't my intentions count for something? And the answer, chosen ones, is that to them intentions are invisible. Only patterns are visible. And here lies your power. If patterns are what they measure, then patterns are what you can master. Every repeated excuse can be replaced with consistent action. Every skipped apology can be replaced with consistent accountability. Every silence can be broken with courage. And when you do that, their predictions collapse. Their algorithms fail. Imagine the frustration of those who study you when your patterns no longer match their forecasts. Imagine the panic when the chosen one they've charted suddenly redraws the map with new habits, new resilience, new consistencies. That's when you stop being predictable and start becoming unstoppable. Never forget, chosen ones, they don't need a dramatic betrayal or a heroic sacrifice to judge you. They just need your habits. But habits, when chosen with awareness, become your greatest weapon. Because the same consistency they use to trap you can be used to free you. Consistency in growth, consistency in strength, consistency in refusing to shrink. Those are patterns that no algorithm can weaponize against you. And here's the final strike against the enemy. They are building their power on the assumption that you won't notice your own patterns. But now you do. And once you notice, you cannot be reduced. Because what they thought would expose you becomes the very thing you can use to define yourself on your terms. So chosen ones, let them watch your habits. Let them log every default, every pattern. Because from now on, your smallest acts will no longer betray you. They will declare you. And every time you choose deliberately, you turn their greatest weapon into their greatest defeat. Number 7. Your reputation's collapse timeline is already calculated. They measure your collapse curve, not your innocence. They don't need you to be guilty, chosen ones. They only need to know how long it would take to watch you burn and how quickly you'd rise again. My chosen ones, listen closely. The Watchers are not sitting in dark rooms debating your innocence or guilt. That's not their business. Their focus is far colder, far more calculated. They want a timeline, a collapse curve. They want to know exactly how long outrage would stick to your name, how fast your circle would scatter, and whether you would crawl back or vanish for good. To them, your value isn't in your truth. Your value is in the speed of your recovery. This is the reality you live in. Your reputation is not judged by morality, but by durability. When they look at you, they ask, if this one is struck down, how long before the noise dies? If the outrage can be contained and your credibility patched up quickly, they keep you in play. You are still useful. But if the wounds linger, if whispers turn into echoes that never fade, they mark you as too costly to save. To them, innocence is irrelevant. Efficiency is everything. Imagine this. A scandal surfaces. They don't rush to prove whether it's true. No, they measure the reaction. How fast does the story spread? How many allies defend you? How many neutral faces quietly shift to criticism? How long before the fire burns out? They test these questions by floating rumors, by pushing subtle triggers, by studying how quickly your name can heal. It's not about what happened, it's about what can be done with what happened. My dear chosen ones, have you ever asked yourself, why do some people walk away from ruin while others never recover? This is why. Because the Watchers are running calculations. They know that resilience is a resource. If your history shows you bounce back quickly, you're marked as valuable. if your past collapses lingered, if every stumble turned into a permanent scar, you're boxed as expendable. It isn't fairness, it isn't justice, it's math, cold math. The market doesn't care who was right, it only cares who can return on investment. That is why some are lifted out of scandal with redemption arcs, while others are left to rot in silence. Not because one is innocent and the other guilty, but because one has momentum and the other has none. Your comeback curve is what they trade on. If you have a following that refuses to abandon you, if your skills or influence are too rare to discard, you are rehabilitated, whispered back into rooms, quietly rebuilt. But if you lack those buffers, if your allies melt away and your name turns toxic, they let the noise bury you. Do not mistake this for morality. This is survival strategy from their perspective. They recruit the resilient, the ones who can take a hit and keep moving, and they neutralize the weak, the ones who collapse slowly, dragging mess behind them. To them, you are not a human navigating struggle. You are a risk profile, a calculation, a cost-benefit equation. Chosen ones, this is why your strength matters so much. Not the loud strength of shouting down a room, but the quiet strength of rebuilding after collapse. Every time you rise faster than expected, you rewrite their chart. Every time you outlast the whispers, you bend their metrics until their predictions fail. That unpredictability terrifies them, because it means their grip isn't absolute. And yes, they will test you. They will drip hints of doubt, leak contradictions, push narratives designed to see how quickly you falter. Because to them, it's not about your fall, it's about your rebound. Do you rise in days, weeks, months, or not at all? That curve decides whether they keep you in the game or erase you from it. So understand this, chosen ones, your reputation isn't just a name floating in air. It's a timeline measured with ruthless precision. But hidden inside that cold calculation is your greatest weapon. Because every time you rise, every time you rebuild stronger and faster, you force them to account for you again. You deny them the cheap victory of silence. Remember this truth. Their ledger doesn't record innocence. It records resilience, and the more resilient you are, the more they fear you. Because resilience means unpredictability, and unpredictability means power. Number 8. Both your rage and restraint are harvested as fuel. They mine your fire and your silence like weapons. They want your rage for fuel and your silence for control. Both are valuable to them, but only you decide how they'll be used. My chosen ones, lean in. The Watchers are not indifferent to your emotions. They are not dismissing your anger as just a mood or brushing off your calm silence as insignificant. No, every flicker of rage and every ounce of restraint is harvested, catalogued, and stored as a resource. To them, your emotions are not human experiences. They are assets waiting to be exploited. When you erupt, they don't see you as reckless. They see you as dangerous in the most electrifying way. Anger to them is energy. It signals conviction. It tells them you are capable of mobilizing others, igniting movements, and bending entire rooms toward your fire. Momentum is power, chosen ones, and anger creates momentum faster than almost anything else. But understand this. The Watchers are opportunists. They study the spark of your rage, not to silence it, but to redirect it. If they can't kill the fire, they'll attempt to use it as a torch for their own agenda. On the other hand, when you choose restraint, when you swallow words, when you refuse to escalate, they mark you differently. Restraint signals composure. It tells them you can be controlled, placed in environments where calm is more useful than truth. You become, in their ledger, the stabilizer, the one who won't ignite storms without permission. And to them, that makes you just as valuable as the disruptor. Do you see the trick, chosen ones? Rage and restraint are opposites on the surface, but to those who watch you, both are gold. Anger becomes a resource for mobilization. Restraint becomes a resource for order. You can be packaged either way, as the rebel who stirs the fire or as the diplomat who soothes the crowd. Neither role is good or bad in their eyes. Both are simply useful. And here's where you must be vigilant. They track not just your big explosions or your quiet nights. They're not interested in single events. They're hunting for patterns. Do you default to rage, or do you default to silence? Do you mobilize fury into action, or do you bury it behind a polished exterior? Those tendencies become coordinates on their chart, and once they know your default, you become predictable. And predictability, chosen ones, is the foundation of control. But let me give you the strike they don't expect. Both extremes carry risk. If you rage too often, they mark you as volatile, a liability to be neutralized before your influence spreads out of control. If you restrain too much, you risk being exploited, treated as endlessly compliant until your silence begins to erase you. That's the trap they hope you'll fall into. The true power, my chosen ones, lies not in being harvested for one or the other, but in mastering both. Imagine this. You show just enough fire to prove you can move mountains, and just enough composure to prove no one else can move you. That balance terrifies them, because when you master both, you become unclassifiable. You refuse to be sorted into their boxes of rebel or stabilizer. You become fluid, untouchable, a force they cannot control with their categories. Unpredictability is the weapon they fear most because no chart can capture it. So when you feel anger rise, don't waste it. Channel it. Let it move when you want it to, not when they expect it. And when you feel the urge to stay silent, don't let it erase you. Use it as strategy, not submission. Rage and restraint are not weaknesses. They are signals of power. But only when you control the timing, not them. Chosen ones recognize what this means. You are not just being studied for your emotions. You are being measured as raw power. The watchers know your fire can spark revolutions, and your silence can reshape rooms. They want to decide when you erupt and when you stay quiet. But the moment you take ownership of both, when you decide the timing, when you master the balance, you strip their control away. So remember this truth. Rage and restraint are not cages. They are tools. Wield both, and you become ungovernable. Play into one, and they will harvest you. Master both, and you harvest them. Number 9, you're reduced to a signal, not recognized as a person. You're reduced to a signal, not recognized as a person. They fear your ripple more than your depth, chosen ones, because ripples spread, and once they spread, no system can pull them back. My dear chosen ones, hear me clearly. To them, you are no longer flesh and blood, no longer complex, layered, or human in the way you know yourself to be. To them, you are stripped down, flattened, reduced to one thing, your signal. They don't care about your private thoughts, your quiet doubts, or the secret strength you've built in silence. What matters to them is the ripple you create when you move. Every word, every gesture, every glance that shifts a room becomes data, not emotion, not nuance, just impact. Think of it this way: if your voice can spark debate, they record it. If your presence can redirect attention, they log it. If a single comment from you can open doors or close them, that is the measurement they treasure. What you feel doesn't matter to them, what you trigger does. And here is the cold truth. Chosen ones, this measurement is relentless. Your life becomes a scoreboard. Reach, how many people you touch. Velocity, how quickly the energy shifts when you act. Stickiness, how long your influence lingers before it fades. These three numbers decide whether you are elevated, tolerated, or erased. Humanity is not on their scale. Numbers are. You may ask, but what about who I really am? What about my complexity? To them, complexity is irrelevant. It slows down the calculation. They want clarity, predictability, efficiency. A brilliant person who is inconsistent is less valuable to them than a steady signal that always performs. If your influence is messy, unpredictable, or slow, you're marked as a liability. If your influence is sharp, repeatable, and measurable, you're marked as an asset. That is the ruthless economy of signal strength. This reality, chosen ones, twists relationships too. Allies will not always approach you for intimacy, for genuine connection. They will approach you for amplification. They want your reach, your spark, your megaphone. Enemies will not always aim at your heart. They will aim at your signal. They want to cut off your echo, silence your ripple, weaken your reach. Conversations become transactions. Who can you move? How fast? How long can you hold the attention of the crowd? These questions become the silent background noise in every interaction. And yet, do not shrink. Because within this cold economy lies a hidden weapon, awareness. Once you know they reduce you to a signal, you can master your own frequency. You can choose when to amplify, when to silence, when to redirect. They fear those who understand this, because when you consciously command your signal, you are no longer predictable. You are dangerous. When they strip you to a signal, they reveal their weakness. Because signals can't be owned, they can only be hijacked. And the chosen ones learn how to protect their frequency. Here is the empowerment buried in their surveillance. If they are measuring you as a signal, it means you have impact worth measuring. Ordinary people vanish in the static. Only chosen ones bend the room enough to be tracked. They log your every ripple because ripples turn into waves, and waves rewrite coastlines. So yes, they will try to box you. They will try to reduce you, to flatten your depth into numbers on a ledger. They will reward you for performing instead of living. They will tempt you to become predictable, a neat metric in their charts. But you are not a box, chosen ones. You are the storm. And storms cannot be flattened. Storms cannot be logged without distortion. Storms cannot be contained. Never forget, your humanity may be invisible to them, but it is not gone. It is your anchor, your core, your unshakable truth. They see only the signal, but you hold the source. And that source, my chosen ones, is what makes you untouchable when you refuse to be reduced. So let their charts run, let their ledgers fill, let their watchers measure. In the end, their obsession proves your power. You are not being tracked because you are ordinary. You are being tracked because every ripple you create bends the current of reality. And that, chosen ones, is something no metric can ever truly capture. And so, chosen ones, we've peeled back another layer of the system that refuses to see you as a human and insists on reducing you to numbers and signals. But let that not weaken you. Let it fuel you. Because if they're measuring, it means you matter. If they're tracking, it means you shake foundations. Now it's your turn to answer back. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop the number 77 in the comments to show you're awake, and share this with someone who needs to know their power is being watched. Awareness spreads, chosen ones make it echo.